vitesse plus grande dans les changements technologiques, qu'on pense à Teams, que personne n'avait il y a 2 ans ou presque, qui maintenant, on se rencontre sur cette plateforme-là. Donc, ça demande des nouvelles compétences, ça demande de travailler sur celles qu'on avait déjà aussi pour être en mesure de rester à jour et de fournir un service aux Canadiens qui est toujours optimal. D'un autre côté, l'environnement de travail a changé quant à la main-d'œuvre. On peut penser, dans les médias, on entend beaucoup parler de pénurie de main-d'œuvre. Moi, je me souviens quand j'ai commencé à travailler au gouvernement, on nous disait, vous étiez 50 000 à appliquer, on en a pris 50. Maintenant, on dirait que c'est quasiment l'inverse. Et les attentes des employés ont changé aussi. Il y a plus de demandes pour le soutien au développement professionnel. C'est rendu quelque chose qui est beaucoup plus ancré dans la culture du travail et à laquelle il faut s'adapter. Puis on ne se le cachera pas, là, au gouvernement, on n'est pas nécessairement très bien équipé pour travailler à aider nos employés dans leur développement professionnel. Je pense qu'on a tous eu à faire face un jour ou un autre à une évaluation de rendement ou une discussion par rapport à nos PME où on voulait inclure des éléments dans notre plan d'apprentissage et le gestionnaire disait, allez voir sur le site de l'École de la fonction publique, puis voyez dans le catalogue qu'est-ce que vous pouvez prendre. C'est sûr que ce n'est pas, disons, la façon optimale de travailler sur le développement professionnel. Donc, on voulait se pencher un peu sur cet élément-là. Comment on développe des compétences d'autres façons que par les cours qui sont offerts à l'école. One thing we started looking at early on was how do people learn? So according to a lot of studies and academics, people learn mostly through hands-on experience. And one of the often cited model is the 70-20-10, where people learn 70% of their skills, knowledge, and otherwise in the context of their actual job, in the context of doing. And then there's a 20% that is done through interaction with others, whether it's your supervisor, your colleagues, or like mentors and coaches. And then the remaining 10% is done through structured learning, or like the usual like in-class activities for which the Canada School of Public Service is doing already a very good job. So knowing all of that, and we kind of know this instinctively. Like, I mean, if you've ever done, briefing notes, or if you've worked on like procurement or HR processes, as you do more of them, you usually become better at it because you've learned what to do, what not to do, and you've gained that experience. So with that in mind, of like wanted to work on skill and wanted to go through an approach of like hands-on experience, we start to think about what a framework could look like. And so this is what we came up with. And we started with the what. So what are we going to be developing? So the skill set. There's a lot of taxonomy out there. If you look at within the government, PCPO has one. Obviously, TBS has its own. ESDC has its own. And then those vary from like one classification to the next. So it can become very complicated for people to know what they should be working on and talk about these competency in the same language and kind of understand each other. And you can get confused very quickly. So the first job we undertook was kind of look at all of them, look at the commonalities, and try to come up with something that would encompass all of the important competency and ensure that we had a kind of a proper, like one unified way of looking at them. This is very much still in development, so we'll be happy to revisit that with anybody on this call or otherwise to further develop this. But like we needed to have this first kind of baseline of the what. But then the other part of the what is like we're all different. We all have different interests, experience, and we have career aspiration that varies. So what I want to learn about and what Jasmine or Isabelle, who you will be seeing in a few minutes, want to learn about are very different. So how do you reconcile that? Well, I mean, we went about it with by developing self-assessment. So provide people with kind of a baseline as to like, hey, where I'm at in terms of the skill set that I want, the skill set that I need, and how should I and then start a conversation and reflection as well. So conversation with your managers so that you can have those discussions in the PMA season or on an ongoing basis to what you should be developing for your current job, your future job, whether it's that level or if it's a promotion. I'll stop here just to put a caveat in there. This is by no means meant to be a performance tool. It's very much a professional development, and it's important to separate the two, not to get into trouble. Others have tried to meddle both, and usually it doesn't end well. So we've kept those very much separate. Professional development on one side, performance on the other side, and we're not touching performance. So the other thing I'll say is because, skills, techniques, and tools are very much interrelated, we actually developed 3 self-assessment tool. The skills one will be the one we'll be presenting today. So that, we hope, will take care of all the why. So the next step was, how do you develop those skill set in a context of hands-on learning? Well, obviously, you can do this in your own team if you're lucky enough to have the type of skill development that you need within your team. So, for example, what I'm trying to say, if you want to learn how to do MCs and your team does that, well, it's easy for your manager or your director to partner you up with a team that does it, and then with a colleague that is working on it. But if that's not the case, well, the traditional way to get that skills was to change team and move to a team where they do MCs. And that's usually why those teams are it's pretty easy for them to recruit, because it's a skill that everybody needs to put on the resume at some point if they want to move up in certain categories. But what if you don't have that and you don't want to move to another team because, I don't know, you like your manager or you like the file you're working on? Well, then that's where micro-mission assignment can come in and provide you with that flexibility to go work either part-time or full-time for a certain amount of time, like whether it's week or months, on a project that will provide you with the skill and knowledge that you need to go to the next level. And then the last piece of it, where it's tying in that formal learning that the school already provides on whether it's TB sub, an MC, HR, whatever, so that then you have a full kit for you to develop your skill set. So that's what we've tried to do. Donc, plusieurs avantages à ça. D'un côté, mais pour les employés, ça permet d'être mieux accompagnés, d'avoir les outils pour se développer et être mieux préparés pour les prochains concours ou être capable d'appliquer pour les postes qui les intéressent. Pour les employeurs, ça permet, entre autres, d'avoir les bonnes personnes à la bonne place avec les bonnes expériences au bon moment. Ça aide aussi à augmenter le taux de rétention et ça permet une meilleure gestion du changement et gestion du risque, en plus d'améliorer le bien-être des employés. Donc, comme je disais, il y a plusieurs choses qu'on a déjà développées. Présentement, cet automne, on va tester le concept de micro-mission et l'application qu'Isabelle a développée. On va raffiner ça, on va raffiner les autres éléments aussi du concept pour arriver à un produit qui va être utilisable tout d'abord à l'intérieur de DSC, mais qui pourrait être utilisable à l'extérieur de DSC. C'est une des idées qu'on avait à la base, que ça soit ouvert au plus grand nombre de personnes éventuellement. Excusez-moi, on n'a pas pu faire ça toute seule, c'est évident. On a eu à travailler on a eu la chance de travailler avec plusieurs personnes à l'intérieur de l'école, à l'intérieur de DSC, je vais finir par dire les bons mots, que ça soit Jasmine, soit des gens au collège, mais aussi on a pu collaborer avec plusieurs personnes à l'extérieur de DSC dans la fonction publique, que ce soit à l'École de la fonction publique, Transport Canada, PCPO, le programme d'agent libre. On a eu beaucoup de gens qui nous ont aidés, sinon on ne serait pas rendu où on est aujourd'hui. Et donc, in terms of next step, as I said, we're going to be piloting the app. We're going to be piloting the micro-mission concept. We're going to be working on the packaging. That means privacy. although we're only going to be collecting like names and like self-assessment, so your own result of self-assessment, we want to make sure that this is done appropriately so that people feel secure in using the app. We're obviously going to be translating everything so that's available in both official languages, and that we have the proper accessibility functions in place. I said earlier that we were collaborating with a bunch of people. We're hoping to collaborate with even more as we continue this. We were talking with people at StatScan who are going to be presenting next, and like we'll hopefully be continuing that collaboration afterwards. The last thing I'm going to talk about before letting Isabelle do the interesting part of the presentation, which is the demo, is talk a bit about the new functionalities that we'll be putting in place. So right now we have the micro mission elements in, but what about self-identification for like skills you want to develop? Like that's one of the things we'll be putting in for employees eventually. And also trying to tie in the current and building new coaching and mentoring functionalities in there, so that like if there's coaching and mentoring initiative that are going on within the organization, we can tie that in or build new one for skills that are not currently being covered. So with all of that said, thank you for listening, and I will let Isabelle present the demo.
Bonjour tout le monde, je m'appelle Isabelle et c'est moi qui ai le plaisir de vous présenter une démo de l'application qu'on a appelée Hub d'apprentissage que nous sommes en train de développer. Alors, je vous dirais que l'app est en mode bêta, donc totalement utilisable. So we're in beta mode with this app that I'll demo in a few minutes, though we are refining it constantly and adding new functionalities. It is totally usable in its present state, and we're piloting it with real users in coming weeks and months. Alors, comme Guillaume l'a mentionné plus tôt, il nous reste à travailler sur la partie packaging, donc la conformité avec les langues officielles. Alors, ce que vous allez voir aujourd'hui est en anglais seulement, mais sachez juste que c'est dans nos plans, une fois le pilote terminé, d'ajouter le côté français. So I have been having some issues lately with my internet connection when I share my screen and I'm on camera at the same time. So if it's okay, I will turn off my camera while I present and share my screen, and hopefully I won't run into technical difficulties that way. Just before we get going, I would like to mention that this app was a collaborative effort. So I've had the pleasure of working with a wonderful gentleman by the name of Jonathan Manuel. He's from ESDC's IM and IT solutions team. I believe he's on this call today. He's been a really fantastic coach and has helped enormously with the more heavy-duty coding of the app. So a big heartfelt thank you to you, Jonathan. Alors, allons-y. Je vais partager mon écran. Okay, hopefully everyone can see my screen. I can't see anyone, so can Guillaume just confirm that everyone can see the screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Merci beaucoup. Donc, voici notre page d'introduction à l'application. On a 5 différents boutons ici. So we have the set of self-assessments as the first 2 buttons here. So I'll go through the skills self-assessment today. I'll show you that in a minute. But we do have other assessments, as Guillaume mentioned. There's the learning resource module. So that's really about the resources that we'll be able to put together so that people can browse those resources. And that will also be tied to the skills self-assessment. On a aussi le module pour les micro-missions. Donc, quelqu'un va pouvoir aller voir les micro-missions qui sont offertes actuellement et puis pourront aussi appliquer pour une micro-mission à travers ce module-là. Et aussi, on va avoir un module qui s'en vient bientôt sur le coaching et le mentorat. Alors, sans plus tarder, je vais vous montrer un petit peu le Skills Self-Assessment. So in the Skills Self-Assessment, this first screen is a bit of an introduction screen as to how to use the self-assessment. So I won't go through this in detail. I'll just get started so you can see what we're looking at. So in this screen on the left, what I would do to search the catalog of skills is I would essentially first choose a category. So we have 5 here. Each category has a number of skills and they'll appear at the bottom here. So let's say I wanted to work on or look at communications and storytelling, and I'm curious as to what effective oral dialogue is. I click that, And then at the right here up on top, I'll have a definition of effective oral dialogue, what that is. Ici, il y a un bouton aussi pour aller voir les compétences qui s'y rapportent et les sources d'où on a pris ces compétences-là. Alors, we're not reinventing the wheel. So these are from the ESDC, EC, and PMAS competencies, and each skill will have that related skills and sources button. Underneath here, we have a button to show that someone's interested in continuing to develop this skill. So for example, if this is something I'm interested in, effective oral dialogue, I can click this on. This will record my interest in developing the skill, and I'll show you in a minute. It'll show up in my profile. So next step to do the self-assessment is for each of these related behaviors to effective oral dialogue, I'm going to essentially choose one of the options here. So either not yet, learning, acquired, or mastered. There's a small scale definition button here to tell you what these mean. And so, as you can see in this case, I've actually self-assessed this one before, so it's remembered this one for me. Par contre, si je vais par exemple sur storytelling, vous allez voir ici que j'ai pas rien rempli. Alors, je vais remplir mon intérêt et je vais aussi passer à travers rapidement pour vous montrer et vous donner une idée qu'est-ce que ça ferait. J'ai pas besoin de tous les remplir là, mais je vais le faire quand même. Alors, so saving to profile will essentially save your information into a skills profile that you can then view. So it's saving right now. When I hit my view my skills profile, it will take a minute to load here, and you'll see these are all of the skills that I've self-assessed in the app. So you can see my strengths here on the left, the areas for potential development that I might want to look at with the interest. So for example, I can see here communications and storytelling, effective oral dialogue. I have shown my interest in it, whereas others I haven't. So those might be areas of more interest. And then we'll also be showing a partially assessed or not yet assessed list. And we'll be able to download the skills profile. So it'll be an output that people can hang on to, that can be used to chat with their manager about their learning plan. Alors, je vais juste retourner à la page ici pour passer au prochain module. Donc, le prochain module, je vais vous montrer, c'est la liste de ressources. Alors, quand vous avez fait votre auto-évaluation des compétences, vous pouvez ensuite regarder la liste de ressources et aussi filtrer par vos intérêts. Alors, par exemple, ici, si je clique ce bouton-là, la liste va se refaire basée sur les intérêts que j'ai marqués dans l'auto-évaluation. I can also filter this list by category. So the same categories as you saw earlier, I can put multiple ones if I'd like. So it's going to filter down the list. Right now, all I have in here is dummy data, but it gives you an idea what it could look like. For each of the resources here, if I click on one, I will get the detail at the bottom. So I'll get the title, the media type, the source. I'll be able to open the source link in another window, the price if it's a book or something paying course, and then a rating. So this will act a little bit as a TripAdvisor function where people will be able to rate the resource and give it a rating and give it some comments to essentially help others in deciding what they should take. And each resource as well has this area on the right that shows you the skills that the resource is covering. So they all have different ones here. And of course, people will be able to add new resources to the catalog if they'd like to do that. Alors, je sais que je vais un petit peu vite, mais je vais passer à la prochaine section qui est appliquée pour une micromission. Alors, les gens qui sont intéressés par les micromissions peuvent appliquer ici et voir les opportunités. So right now, I'm just showing you again dummy data in here to show that there are 4 current micromission opportunities available. So for example, someone who would like to learn more about this particular opportunity could go to the more detail, look at the comments, and then show their interest for this micromission by essentially completing a small form that they would send off. That then someone would be notified automatically to look at that and to do a matching with a potential micromission host. And then last but not least, I'll quickly show you that someone can learn more about micromissions. So in this area here, we have a little bit of an education piece. So what are micromissions, the types, how to apply for micromission, what the process is. We've prepared some prep documents for people to look at, think about before they actually apply or discuss a micromission with a manager. And then think about their aftercare plan as well, which is super important. This aftercare plan is really about how do you integrate the learning that you have done in the micromission in your current and or future positions. So that is pretty much it that I wanted to show you today. So I'll stop there and I'll pass the mic back over to Jasmine. Happy to take any questions.
Merci, Madame Rodrigue. Madame Bouzy-Garenne, j'ai vu que vous aviez votre main levée, mais que vous l'avez descendue. Peut-être que vous avez été exaspérée par la longueur de temps que ça nous a pris à répondre à votre question. Mais si jamais tu veux revenir puis poser ta question directement à Isabelle, vas-y.
Non, je ne suis pas exaspérée. Je pensais que ce n'était pas le moment des questions.
C'est n'importe quand, comme tu as vu dans le chat.
So, interesting tool. In assess your skills, est-ce qu'il y a comme un barème, because it's auto, like, self-evaluation, like, how do you rate yourself, like, to help make sure that there's common guidelines on how we're rating ourselves? I may have missed it.
The idea is not, and I should have mentioned that when I was covering the 4 elements of the framework. The idea is not to have everybody answering it the same way. It's for everybody to be able to kind of figure out where they kind of stand at. And we've talked to people who have already done this, and it's like whether you're a 2 out of 5 or a 3 out of 5 doesn't really matter. The idea is to understand: are you an expert in this, or are you just a beginner? And then you know where to go and have and what you want to learn. It also helps with your conversation with manager, like, oh, what should you focus on? You're already an expert in this. Like, maybe you should focus on this one instead. But yeah, I mean, again, it's not related to performance. It's related to your development. So at the end of the day, what your exact level doesn't really matter.
The self-assessments you see on screen are really based more on your demonstration of the behavior. So going from not yet to mastered, where in the mastered category, you would consider yourself a go-to person, where you could essentially prompt and coach others.
Good. Thanks. That answers my question.
Merci. There's a bunch of action in the chat, so I will let you respond to the participants directly because we won't have time to go through to our next presenters. Merci beaucoup, Service Canada. Vous avez été incroyable comme d'hab. On se reparle.
Merci beaucoup.
Ekramol and Alexandria, are you ready to present your portion? Cool. Hi. Where'd our friend go? There she is. Hey.
I'm here. I'm just trying to open the presentation. And it should be coming up any minute, any second. So, hi everyone, I'm Alex Saka, and I'm a free agent on assignment at StatCan, working on the talent bank. So it's an incredible pleasure to be here on the other side of the HR Innovation Lab. I'm a huge fan, and you do a great job of bringing people together and projects and products and people that we might not otherwise hear about. So thank you. And I'm super excited about the presentation we just had, and love that you matched us together. It really shows how many organizations have an appetite for innovative tools that are working on supporting our learning and skill development. And I'm so proud to be able to contribute to a presentation on the Talent Bank and the Skill Finder tool at StatCan. So the Talent Bank overview, what really attracted me to this project is that it's really a human resource innovation tool, putting skills and learning interests and us at the core. So us meaning employees. So it's collecting information from employees interested in career growth opportunities through an interactive online form. And it's giving us the in-supply skills and learning interests and providing the hiring managers with visibility to skilled candidates. So here's a snapshot of the form itself, where you see how the employee logs in, they enter their information on skills and learning interests, they attach or they copy and paste the resume, and then they press submit. So ultimately, the interactive form is addressing one of our biggest challenges, like what are the skills and learning interests of our workforce? We have the employees who are highly skilled and motivated to power up their skills to meet the demand in the future of work. So this brings us to the other side of the challenge, is what skills do we need to meet business needs and outcomes? And what are the in-demand skills that will help us with this? So this brings us to the Skill Finder tool. And how are we able to use this information in the talent bank inventory efficiently and effectively to reduce time to staff with managers and matching with best fit candidates? And how do we determine the skills gap? So that is where the partnership with the data science team came in and the development of the Skills Finder tool, where managers can enter keywords and drop-down menu searches that filter candidates based on their skills and learning interests they entered in the talent bank and the unstructured info from their resumes. So I will pass it on to my brilliant colleague from the data science team, Ekram, to give you a little demo.
Thank you so much, everyone. Hi, my name is Ikram. I am representing the development team from the data science division. So before I jump into the demo itself, I can quickly show you what we can see from the current slide is that it is a quick snippet of how the tool looks like. I will go to each of the boxes that I am mentioning about the functionality of it. So I will start by sharing my screen. Give me a thumbs up if you guys can see it.
Thumbs up.
All right, perfect. All right, so the application, when we are loading this particular application, it actually showcases a quick introduction of how you can use it. This is just a quick snippet of how the tool you can interact with. And before I jump more into the details of the demo, I would like to mention that I will be using a dummy data so that I do not expose any sensitive information. However, the data maintains the similar schema, the data attributes that has been followed in the talent bank. All right, so the interface of the application is structured to provide an intuitive approach in operating the functionalities. On the left, we have added a search bar where you can add keywords such as something like this. And you can also add multiple keywords like a person who is looking for 2 of these particular skills. On the bottom, you can see there is a box that listing down a list of skills. These skills has been classified as a skills taxonomy in the talent bank. This is a broad category of it, like how we have found among different divisions, different skill sets, and we have provided them as a form of filters. So any users or hiring managers, who is our end user over here, can select them and put a search on it. That these filters will go inside the talent bank, the data that we have collected, and we'll bring out all the results from it. On the right, you can see there are some results that coming in. These are all definitely being the dummy set of it. However, I'd like to quickly show you what sort of information that you can see it from. You can see that there's some information that has been provided in the talent bank, like the institution, the degrees, the field of study, the specializations, and also the self-selected skills in the talent bank. All this information has been showcased in a QCard format. There are other important information that we have played around with to help the managers identify some potential candidates. For instance, you can see there is a green box saying equity group. We wanted to see if that particular candidate belongs to the equity group or not. Then we also have another flag called SLE, which stands for second language evaluation. Although it doesn't give a proper indication of what the verbal or the written skills or the level of it. However, we will try to play around like what sort of information we can help and assist. In our next phase, which we will talk about a bit more, is how we are trying to integrate some other information to help managers identify them. Moving on. So we can look into other information as well. Let's say that hiring manager wants to know a bit more, like I want to know what's the particular condition candidate has. There's a particular link or resume link. Whenever you click on it, it will take you down to a PDF format where we have compiled all the other information from the resumes, all the information that we have. Now, here is the thing. You can think of this particular PDF as a placeholder. Think of, we can add a bunch of other information that we already have in the organization, like the learning interest, the PSRS information, all we can integrate and showcase it over here. What we are trying to do here, that how it can help us arrange all this information and show it to you in a much summarized and a quick format. Moving back to the tool again, there are other options as well. For instance, now let's say the manager is interested to have an interview. He or she can shortlist them. There's a button for shortlisted. Once it's shortlisted, he or she can export them into an Excel file. So this particular Excel file will provide all the other information so that he or the hiring managers can go back to the HR staffing team and say that, hey, I want to interview them. I want to go forward and have a better understanding of this. All right, so this gives a good summary of the main functionalities of it. Now, there's an important information that Alexandria has mentioned that we would like to know the in-demand skills, what the hiring managers are looking for. In order to do that, what we have provided with the tool is a form of log files. This particular log file stores all the information or the search filter that has been applied on, like what the hiring managers has given inputs on. So that gives an idea like what sort of information are they looking for, what skills are been in demand. For instance, you can see as I have written data in Python, this information has been stored. Now, as you can see, I'm not storing any personal information of the hiring managers itself. We are just interested in what sort of skills or what they're looking for and what sort of candidates has that skills or not. So this gives us a good understanding of what the supply is as well as the demand. Now, this is a bit unstructured right now, but we have developed a way to populate this into an analytical dashboard, let's say a Power BI app or stuff, so that it gives some more insights for the HR team to have a better understanding on it. Okay, so this brings into my part of the demo. I will quickly jump in to the slide again. Yeah. Okay, and now that we have created this particular application, we made sure that we want to test it with some real hiring managers. That's what we did. We went out and reached out a group of managers who's participated, thanks to them, in this particular tool and give us a very good feedback. Again, I want to make sure that I pass this information that we have shipped and packaged this application in such a way which was secured into a net A environment, and the managers are able to access it and they can actually import it into their own environment and was able to interact with the application. And that application and the result of that has provided a very good insight on us. You can see there are two small images. On the left, you can see there is a word cloud. And on the right, there is a particular table showcasing what sort of information that they have looked into. This was the goal of this particular phase of the application, was to understand what was the hiring managers are more interested in. Later on, that actually gives us a bit more of our application itself. They're given a very good feedback, like, hey, I want to see some of these features to be added into our application, like filters, like more information, more up to date. So this was a very good process, or what we have been able to do. So thank you so much for having us here, that we were able to showcase our demo. And now I'll be passing on to Alexandria to pass on the ending remarks.
And if there's any questions, I just wanted to put up our team's email addresses here. If you wanted to give us a contact or send us a message for any questions that you have, but we'll answer anything that you have here as well.
That was super excellent. I love that there was some dancing on chairs. People are excited. And I'm having some of the same questions that I had when I first saw this in the conversations we've had over the years as well. Isabelle and Guillaume, if you want to pop back on for some questions also, some of these questions from the participants may apply to you. So I'm hearing there's a need for this in the federal public service. I see it, I feel it, I've lived it. It's been painful. So thank you for prototyping some solutions. Really appreciate that. I see that there's a parallel or duplication with the career marketplace on GC Connects, which, like, for a while, and I understand GC Connects is a thing of the past. No. But there was that functionality available before. Where there was a hiccup was in terms of the ability to demonstrate value added. There was no way to, and that one too. There was no way for us to track how the tool was actually working and how much more efficient it was than traditional hiring, and I mean that in a flattering way, because right now it's like email who you know kind of business. So there's no systematic and deliberate way to match the best talent with organizational needs. So reporting and specifically on value added, and how is this better than what we're currently doing? And I mean, I know the answer. I just want you to.
Well, I'll just take that one first. It's, a lot of it has to do with engagement and communication. and getting a lot of people to use it, because that's when it becomes very valuable, and to adjust as we go. So I think the biggest thing is having more people use it, because then we have more visibility, and for employees to realize that this is for their visibility, and to possibly coach on what skills to use to put in there, and that this is also for their learning interest, and also for the culture of hiring managers. There's always such a need in every organization, but I know in StatCan in particular, you don't want to let someone go because you don't know if you'll be able to get someone to come in place. But with a tool like this, what we would love to see is have that flow of, there's a lot of participants, there's a lot of people to search for, so it's okay to let someone go and to promote your employees' career development and not worry about holding on too tight in that poaching culture.
Ooh, culture change. Nice, thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, on our end, like, it's a professional development tool. It's not necessarily a tool to like fill position. So it's not a hiring tool. It's two different things. So we're hoping not to step on anybody's toes, but if we are, we're happy to see how we can, instead of getting in fight, start dancing together.
Bravo, bien dit.
Merci.
In terms of going against stuff that already exists, and I know we've addressed this in one of our previous meetings, but what about what the Public Service Commission is doing in terms of revamping jobs.gc.ca, being able to put all of our security clearances, our diplomas, our second language assessments, etc., so that we could be more efficient public service-wide to match talent and people? Have we spoken to them? Have we gotten a response?
Well, one of the things that we would love is for the talent bank to integrate with these things. And right now, the talent bank is for internal assignments. Like, would we be willing to share, the skill finder tool and things like that? Absolutely. And we love to see a government-wide something like with the job banks and the developments, yes. But right now, for our internal needs like that we have right now, this is the best solution. And, yes, we're hoping and we're cheering for like a government-wide solution to come about as well. And we are talking to a lot of people who are doing similar things and hoping to learn. And like Guillaume said, theirs is learning, but ours is about learning interest too. So we're watching them very closely, hoping to integrate in some way, because really, we want it to be career growth, and we want it to be for learning interest and powering up skills and filling business needs. We want the whole thing. So that encompasses the learning part as well.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, and I'll add a little bit. So, I mean, we used kind of a design thinking approach to this. And so we started super small with like a few things. And then as we see that these things are working and that there's a need for it, we'll grow and expand and link to other things. So right now it's like very much like beta point. When we get to further down the road, we're happy to integrate and see where else this could be fitting, so that we're maximizing the value we get out of this.
The sad/happy part about this is that we had so many people, so many departments working on similar tools and, wanting the same things for the federal public service, that we actually have to do a second session next month on this same theme, because we didn't want to cram everyone in. We wanted to give you the space to interact with the participants, because if I were to start anywhere and like I'm at my desk, I'm going, oh, there's a problem. One of the first concerns, and when I go knocking on doors, is like, have you checked with privacy? Have you checked with legal? What are you doing with the data? What about the ethics, et cetera, et cetera? What did you do or didn't do on purpose? Ask for forgiveness?
We're working on it right now. So it's stuff that, as I said in the presentation, we'll be looking at more in depth as we go, and we'll be happy to share with other departments so that they don't have to go through the same steps that we do. We've been collaborating widely from the beginning for that reason, so that we're able to share this afterwards. And like I'm seeing, I think it's Philippe Berube in the chat who's saying like, hey, we'd love to be part of this, the pilot for this. we'll see what we can do. We'll see what we can do. Right now, we're very much internal, but like depending on the interest we see, we'll see if there's opportunity to do things with other people.
Merci. Akram, I saw you unmic and then Mac back up, and then I saw Jean come back in. So floor is yours, gentlemen.
Thank you. Yeah, so in terms of what it relates to the Skills Finder tool, from the data science division, we tend to focus a lot on algorithms, machine learning, and other ways to automate advanced searchability, semantic analysis. And that was the initial kind of inspiration for the searching part of the tool that Alexandria and Mikael, who's here as well, reached out to us. One thing that we did on the algorithm side and with regards to ethics is that at the beginning of each phase of the project, we actually propose our features and what we're planning on doing to our ethics secretariat and go through proactively rounds of ethics review. And in fact, Ekram the tool that we have, what Ekram programmed is a very simple, explainable, transferable keyword search. So we're not making any sort of decisions about is this a match or is not. It's really very similar to a control F or a control find, which managers, or at least myself, when I've opened up an application in the past, I do control F Python or control F staffing and see an experience. If that word comes up in the resume, then I know, okay, here's something I'll look at. So for the first phase of the project with the Skills Finder tool, the idea was to mimic that same search functionality so as to ensure that we're progressing in a very kind of, we're tackling the ethics issues at the same time as the functionality becomes higher and higher and more advanced. So that's the way that we've been addressing the ethics approach.
That's a very legitimate way to go about it. Thank you so much. Privacy concerns. Are we pulling from PeopleSoft data? Are we exploring that possibility of linking up different databases to kind of use the HR data that currently is being unused or underused to kind of help us in making those decisions, if possible, programmed in an unbiased way?
Yes, so we are exploring that, and right now we're having a privacy impact assessment go through that we spent some time on to make sure that it's okay. So for instance, like right now, the talent bank form asks a lot of administrative questions and you have to fill that in. We already have that data. So if we match that with our Instat candidates, Orbit, and other systems, we can integrate that, and the privacy impact assessment will help us do that.
Interessant. Cool. Thank you. There's a question in the chat that I'd like us to address in terms of incorporating diversity, equity, and inclusion needs. Are you looking to expand it to assessing potential of individuals together with integrating an equity lens? Or did you build that in right off the bat? Because that's like part of the name of your team.
So we do have a self-reporting, even though that's already a part of like administrative Orbit. In the talent bank, we do have a spot for them to self-report if they're part of an equity group. And that's where we have, and Akram, you might want to talk to that as well, because the Skill Finder tool has an option with there.
Absolutely, yeah, Jasmine. As I mentioned in my demo, and also I've showcased that we are presenting a flag in some sort of a way to understand that he or she or the particular candidate belongs to equity group. Now, again, some of them hiring managers does the filtering by themselves when they are provided with a list of candidates. So it's the same thing that we are planning to allow them to do the filtering by themselves through this particular tool. We are not going to provide all the decisions. This is going to be specifically to them, and we will just be providing and showcasing this information as see fit, and we'll be maintaining the equity and also the privacy concerns. So that's the idea.
Doing our homework. Very cool. Thank you so much. I know you're at the early stages. Some of you are more advanced or have been dabbling in this for years, close to a decade. But what are some of the lessons learned for other departments who may want to try to maybe cooperate or collaborate with you to expand on what you've built on, or because of X reasons, start their own in their own department? What are some of the lessons right off the bat? You're like, hey, I'm gifting this to you as a wiser person. I've gone through it. Here are the hoops you need to jump through.
I wouldn't say that I'm wise, but what I can say is probably somebody else has been dabbling in this. So reach out to others to try to take on some of the great lessons learned that they have. One of them for us was like, hey, don't make this a performance element. Because then you're going to get a whole lot of trouble. We could have an entire conversation just on that. The other thing is don't wait till it's perfect to do it, because we would still be looking at the skill taxonomy to continue to like fine tune it, and we'll probably be doing this again. But yeah, I mean, we'll never get off the ground if we wait for it to be perfect, and by the time it's perfect, it's going to be obsolete. So yeah, those would be my two main ones.
I just want to mention before I go to lessons learned that we also have a PIA for our collection methods, and that we've consulted accessibility along the way, along each step as well. And they've been a huge help in making sure that our form is accessible and those consultations. So for the lessons learned, I have to say, like, so many projects, as you said, Jasmine, they've started and they have not gone anywhere because sometimes the message gets lost. Like someone, leadership wants this, and then someone gets to work down here, and you know, the intent is lost. So that communication line is really important to say, what's the intent? And, you know, to focus on, and not to try to do too much, to really focus. Like our focus is to have employees enter on the talent bank form to see the in-supply skills and to get opportunities, and for managers to have visibility and to be able to hire easier. So we really have to focus, like, and things come from that, like career growth and learning opportunities. But for the most part, it was really exciting. The talent bank, they actually did something. Like, this just wasn't an idea. And that's one of the reasons I really was excited to join the team, is because they put something into action. Wasn't perfect, like Guillaume said, you know, but they put a form together and then see how it went, and then are developing it from there. So I think that's really important to like start small and just start with something just to get it going.
Yeah. That's part of the process, small, iterative, and then at some point you show and you demonstrate value added, and then scalability, which is also important, and report on your results. Yeah. Excellent. We're going to go to the chat for a second. When do employees have the opportunity to complete their profile? How is it promoted and marketed to employees? I think we discussed how, well, I can do this and set it up in 1999. And then in 2006, a manager is looking for, oh, my skill set. But I'm like, oh, I kind of moved on since then. And I did not update my info. So how do we address that?
Yes. So right now we're early phase. So we're getting people in our groups to fill them out. And then, I mean, ideally, in the context of your learning plan, professional development, you would be updating those to have your conversation with your manager or supervisor or whoever you're having those conversations with. For sure, some people are interests are going to drop in this. We're not going to be able to reach 100% of the public servant, although I would love to. I don't think that's going to happen for a variety of reasons. But yeah, I mean, part of it is on the employee to do so.
I would maybe just add that we are planning to also make it a prerequisite for applying for a micromission, so that we better understand essentially what skills the person's looking to work on, and we can ensure that better matching between the micromission participant and the host.
For Talent Bank, we're working on a communication engagement strategy right now to kind of get the word out there and get the first kind of intake. And then we're looking at other things like onboarding. Is that a great time to enter the information on the Talent Bank form? Or performance management, is that the cycle? Is that a good time to update? And so we are looking at a profile-based system along the line somewhere. That would be ideal. But right now, we're going to have to work on an archive system. Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? Is it when you get a position? And as you get skills, you resubmit the form. That's where we are with it right now.
Wow. So lots of work to still be done, which is super cool. Merci énormément du fond du cœur de la part de tous les participants. Vous avez été incroyables. So incredible work. Would love to keep, actually, I will I will be stalking you actively. So thank you very much for your time. We'll maybe schedule a 1-year touch point so that we can check into the new developments as to where you're at, what you're doing, how it's going. Pour les participants, je vous invite à nous joindre au Scan Club la semaine prochaine qui va être cette semaine dans lié à la prospective stratégique, the future of skills and development. So please join us if you can. And like I said, there was so much interest, there was so much potential for presenters to come showcase their work that we're going to have another HR à la carte on the same theme this month. So thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll see you soon. Take care. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
Merci,
Bye.
Jasmine.
Thank you.